The flashing red and blue lights rippled across the water as I secured the last cleat hitch on my boat. 2 officers made their way down the wooden dock, their boots thumping in rhythm against the planks. The taller one, Officer Martinez, cleared his throat and spoke in a professional, even tone. "Sir, we receive a report of trespassing and unauthorized docking at this marina." I arched a brow, already knowing exactly who had picked up the phone. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of platinum blonde hair and tightly crossed arms glaring at me from the shoreline. Patricia Hendricks, though most of the neighborhood knew her better by another name. Karen, she stood there with a smug grin, convinced she'd finally scored her victory in our little war. But maybe I should back up. Let me explain how I found myself face-to-face with the police on what was supposed to be a quiet Saturday afternoon. 3 months ago, I bought a waterfront home in the Sunset Shores subdivision. Sure, the view was incredible and the craftsman-style architecture had its charm. But what sealed the deal was the bonus that came with the deed, a 51% ownership stake in the adjoining Sunset Marina. The marina had been built 4 decades earlier by Frank Morrison, a stubborn old visionary who turned marshland into a thriving waterside community. Morrison had kept majority control until the end, safeguarding his investment through airtight legal groundwork. When he passed, his estate lawyer offered me the property and a controlling stake in the marina at a price I couldn't walk away from. Patricia Hendricks, on the other hand, had spent the last 7 years ruling Sunset Shores as HOA president, her authority carried out through passive-aggressive newsletters and endless fines. She had crowned herself the self-appointed gatekeeper of the marina, deciding who could and couldn't touch the water. Her power trips were already legendary, measuring lawns with rulers, issuing citations for overly melodic wind chimes, and hosting meetings that felt more like inquisitions than community gatherings. The trouble started the very week I moved in. I had barely unpacked when Patricia showed up at my door with a fake smile, a welcome basket, and a 3-inch thick binder. "Welcome to Sunset Shores," she said sweetly, though her eyes gleamed with something else. "I've highlighted the most important HOA rules for you. Pay extra attention to sections 4 through 17 about watercraft regulations." I thanked her politely, set the binder aside, and figured I'd read it later. That was mistake number 1. Patricia expected immediate obedience. When I skipped her hastily organized emergency HOA meeting for new resident integration, she took it as a direct insult. The real war began when I brought my boat to the marina. Nothing extravagant. A 24-foot cabin cruiser, well kept and my pride and joy. As I backed the trailer down the ramp, Patricia appeared like a bureaucratic specter. "You can't launch it here without HOA approval," she announced, practically trembling with anticipation. Calmly, I explained that I owned 47 Waterfront Drive, which carried marina rights. Her face flushed crimson as she sputtered, "That doesn't matter. All watercraft must be approved by the HOA board before entering our marina." That's when I dropped the bombshell. "Actually, Patricia," I said with a smile, "I don't just have marina rights. I own 51% of the marina itself. Bought it along with the Morrison property." The look on her face was worth 1,000 words. But I should have known she wouldn't quit. Within weeks, she launched a full-scale campaign against me that would have impressed a political strategist. Daily emails to the HOA mailing list screamed things like unauthorized vessel threatens community standards or property values at risk from negligent boat owner. She staged coincidental gatherings whenever I worked on my boat, where neighbors would stroll by, shaking their heads and whispering about how the neighborhood was going downhill. She filed complaints everywhere. The HOA board, the City Marina Commission, even the Coast Guard Auxiliary. Each time, I countered with deeds, contracts, and legal proof. But Patricia didn't care about facts. She cared about control. The harassment escalated. She photographed my boat from every angle, insisting it violated HOA aesthetic guidelines. She measured the dock distance, claiming I was 3 inches over some imaginary limit. And finally, she hired what she proudly called an independent marine consultant. Turned out to be her nephew, with nothing more than a fishing license. The feud finally boiled over at the monthly HOA meeting. Patricia stood at the podium, waving her arms dramatically as a PowerPoint blared across the screen. The boat problem, a clear and present danger to our community. Slide after slide showed unflattering photos of my boat, each marked up with red arrows pointing to imaginary violations. For 45 grueling minutes, she ranted and raved while the room sat captive. When she finally paused for breath, I raised my hand and calmly walked to the front. The chatter died down instantly. Without a word, I connected my phone to projector. "I'd like to share something with everyone," I said evenly. The screen lit up with the original Marina deed and incorporation documents. Speaking slowly, as though teaching kindergartners, I explained. "As you can see, the Marina is a separate legal entity from the HOA. The majority owner, currently me, has full authority over slip assignments, boat approvals, and operations. The HOA has no jurisdiction over marina activities beyond normal property agreements." The room erupted in whispers. Several board members shifted uneasily, clearly realizing they might have been enabling harassment of a property owner acting within his rights. Patricia's face cycled through a rainbow of shades before settling into an alarming crimson. "This is impossible," she shrieked, her voice sharp enough to make glass tremble. "I've managed this marina for 7 years. You can't just waltz in here and claim ownership." I shrugged. "Didn't claim anything, Patricia. I bought it. Legal transfer filed with the county. Would you like me to pull up the tax records too?" That's when she made her biggest mistake. 2 days later, after a peaceful morning cruise, I returned to the dock to find flashing lights waiting. Patricia had called 911, reported that I was trespassing on HOA property and illegally mooring a vessel. Officer Martinez listened as I explained, showing him every document right from my phone. His partner, Officer Chun, struggled to hide a grin as I scrolled through the ownership papers. Patricia stood nearby, arms crossed, foot tapping like a metronome of impatience. Finally, Martinez turned to her. "Ma'am, this gentleman owns a marina. He can't trespass on his own property." Patricia's voice jumped an octave. "But the HOA has rules. We have standards. This is a violation of everything we stand for." Chin stepped forward, his tone firmer. "Ma'am, calling 911 for a false emergency is a misdemeanor. You've wasted city resources on what is clearly a personal dispute." Word spread like wildfire. Within days, the neighborhood was buzzing about Patricia's humiliating police stunt. One by one, slip renters began approaching me, sharing their own horror stories. Tom Bradley from Unit 12 told me she once tried to ban his kayak for being too yellow. Sarah Chan from Unit 33 revealed that Patricia had demanded she write an essay explaining why she deserved a boat slip. That was the final straw. I called an emergency meeting for marina slip holders and interested residents. The community center overflowed with people. I stood at the front and outlined my vision with genuine enthusiasm. First, we're modernizing the docks. New cleats, better lighting, actual safety equipment. Second, slip assignments will be based on availability and fair pricing, not on whether someone attends Patricia's book club. Applause broke out. Third, we're implementing clear, reasonable rules. No more aesthetic committees. No more boat beauty contests. If your vessel is seaworthy and you're a respectful neighbor, you're welcome here. The room roared with approval. In the back row, Patricia sat rigid, her fury practically vibrating off her. When I opened the floor for questions, she shot to her feet, venom dripping from her voice. "This is a coup. You're destroying everything that makes Sunset Shore special." Before I could respond, an elderly man named George stood up, his voice steady but cutting. "Patricia, the only thing being destroyed is your stranglehold on this community. We're tired of living in fear of violation notices." The room exploded with agreement. Residents shouted out memories of her tyrannical rule, the infamous Garden Gnome ban of 2019, the mailbox color war of 2020, the bird feeder prohibition that drove 3 families away. I let the stories flow before stepping back to the podium. "Here's what's going to happen," I said firmly. "The marina will operate independently of the HOA from this day forward, and I'm implementing a strict anti-harassment policy. Anyone caught intimidating or filing false reports against marina users will be banned, permanently." The room erupted once more, but this time The cheers weren't for Patricia. Patricia's attorney, a jittery man named Jeffrey Williams, leaned in and whispered frantically in her ear. She brushed him off, her voice cracking with fury as she shouted, "You can't do this. I'll sue. I'll take it to the state HOA board. I'll call the news." Before her tantrum could gain momentum, HOA Vice President Michael Torres rose from his seat. His tone was calm but resolute. "I move to hold a vote of no confidence in our current HOA president, based on misuse of authority and actions that have exposed this association to legal liability." The vote was quick and devastating. 17 in favor, 2 against, with 1 abstention from Patricia's sister. Silence fell over the room as the results were read aloud. Patricia's face froze, the color draining from it. Torres continued, visibly relieved. "Furthermore, I move to establish a formal separation between HOA governance and Marina operations, fully acknowledging Mr. Johnson's legal ownership and authority." That motion passed without a single objection. Patricia snatched her designer purse, storming toward the exit, but she paused at the doorway, her voice dripping venom. "This isn't over. You'll regret this." The next morning, I posted the new Marina rules. They were simple, practical, and focused on safety, not aesthetics. Beside them, a freshly installed sign greeted visitors. Sunset Marina, privately owned and operated. Slip rentals available to respectful community members. 2 weeks later, Patricia herself submitted an application for a slip. She had bought a small sailboat, no doubt hoping to claw her way back into Marina politics. I reviewed her file carefully. The false police report, the harassment of slip holders, the pending misdemeanor charge for misuse of emergency services. Across her application, I stamped one word in bold: denied. Beneath it, I added a note. Due to documented history of harassment and false reporting against Marina property, this application cannot be approved. This decision is final. When Patricia received the notice, she stormed into Marina office, her face twisted with rage. She shouted loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. "You can't do this to me. I built this community. I am Sunset Shores. I didn't even look up from my paperwork. Patricia, you're welcome to dock at the public marina 6 miles north. I hear they have an excellent HOA compliance program." The legal bills from her failed challenges piled up until, eventually, she was forced to sell her home. Rumor had it she moved to a landlocked subdivision in Arizona. Her final HOA meeting as a Sunset Shores resident was painfully brief. She sat in silence as the new board overturned dozens of her absurd rules. As for me, I spent that evening adding one last touch to my personal slip. A discreet plaque that read, "Private slip, owner operated. Under fair and reasonable management." The marina flourished. Families returned to water. Children fished from the docks. Neighbors gathered to watch sunsets without fear of violation notices. Patricia's infamous 911 stunt had backfired spectacularly. Instead of driving me out, it had exposed her abuse of power to the entire community. The misdemeanor charge stuck. She was fined $3,000 and sentenced to 40 hours of community service. The local newspaper summed it up best in a headline that spread quickly across town. HOA president's overreach leads to downfall. Her real estate career never recovered. Her reputation was shattered. Patricia's last recorded words, as her attorney informed her the fines and criminal charges, were whispered in disbelief. $3,000 for one phone call. Her lawyer simply nodded and muttered, "You're lucky it wasn't worse."